Let's move it on. Let's move it on to the AFC North. Before we do, I want to remind everybody the 2020 Fantasy Football Almanac and Draft Guide. We are going to be updating this for Cam Newton. Yes, I update all of the print versions, so they're always the most up to date. We give you free updates throughout the season. We get you primed. I watch every preseason game to give you the best information when nobody else is watching the fourth quarter of these crappy preseason games. I'm doing it for you. You get the free updates. You get better sleepers. You get film study. You get mathematics, proprietary algorithms. It's just better, everybody. So check it out in a link below. Let's talk Baltimore Ravens, Brad. Look, man, Lamar Jackson, just fantastic year. Again, a little plug for the Fantasy Football Almanac Draft Guide. My readers got him in the 12th or 13th round last year because I said, hey, look, Greg Roman, this offensive system really suits Lamar Jackson. You should pick him up. So there's a nugget. Pretty good sleeper last year. That's the kind of stuff you get. But Lamar Jackson last year, dude, threw for more touchdowns than you'd think he would have. Actually, let me pull up the stats real quick. Let me ask you, Brad, let me say, if I ask you, Lamar Jackson, how many touchdowns did he throw for last year? How much would you say?
15.
15? Are you serious? 15?
Yeah.
That's a bad number. That's a bad number. I would take the over on that. Brad, he threw for 36 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, really?
He threw for 36 touchdowns. Guess how many interceptions he threw?
62.
62. He threw for six interceptions, 36 touchdowns for a 6-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Then on top of that, I know like you and me, we don't love the quarterback running as a strategy, but on top of 36 touchdowns thrown and 6 interceptions, he adds 1,206 yards rushing as a quarterback and 7 touchdowns.
Boy, there's some value in there.
Holy crap. So this dude is a monster. What I like about Lamar Jackson is you and me, we said this all year long. I mean, we were really good with betting the Ravens last year, as this is a team that plays from ahead. But when they get behind, it's a little bit hard because they want to run and run and run. And what we saw in the playoffs last year against the Titans, when we were watching that game, is the Titans go up by 2 scores or something like that. Lamar Jackson, the young quarterback, starts pressing. Not that the Ravens went away from the game plan, but I think Lamar Jackson, honestly, he just didn't play well, and I think he was putting too much pressure on him, and that's what you get as a young quarterback. But, dude, his completion percentage, we were talking about Cam Newton as a career less than 60% passer. Lamar Jackson in his second season, 66.1% passing, which means he's efficient. He's moving the chains. The problem is they couldn't pass the ball downfield. And that was really it. And that's the difference, I think, between the Baltimore Ravens last year and the Kansas City Chiefs last year. Is the Chiefs, when they were down by 24 to Houston, you and me were texting and we're like, Chiefs can come back. And they won by 24. Ravens, you're down by 10. You're like, ooh, they're pressing. Lamar Jackson's pressing a little bit. He's frustrated. He's got to push the ball downfield, and the Tennessee Titans knew it. So that, to me, is the big storyline coming in here for the 2020 season for the Ravens is, will Lamar Jackson, he's already a good passer. Can he be that great passer and push the ball downfield, throw people open, take shots to Marquise Brown and some of these other receivers they have? Or are they going to do the 15 yards and in approach, which, hey, that took them to 14-2 last year? What do you think about that, buddy?
Well, it is an interesting thing to think about because if the Ravens were down by 10, you'd be a little worried. But when the Chiefs were, there was no problem. There was no panic. And as good as Baltimore was, as good as Lamar Jackson was, the Chiefs were all that much better, right? It's still a different animal, and do the Ravens have to get to that level in order to succeed? I don't think so. And I don't even think it's possible. I think what the Chiefs have right now is one of those rare air type deals.
Once every 20-year offense.
Yeah, like the 99 Rams, they were just so damn good on offense, and that was just unique to them.
The 18-1 Patriots. I mean, you think about these all-time great offenses, and we're in the midst of 3 to 5 years of Kansas City doing this. It's fantastic.
Correct. And I don't even think that should be their aim for Baltimore. They can still beat Kansas City playing by their own brand. I'm sorry, I forget the original question.
No, I was just saying, I think you were kind of leading into it is the downfield passing. Kansas City can put up points quick. So if they're down by, in the Super Bowl, down to the NFL's arguably the best defense in the league, with respect to the Ravens and respect to the Patriots in 2019, the 49ers are definitely one of the best defenses in the league. They're down by, 2 or 3 scores again in the fourth quarter with 6-7 minutes left in the game. You thought, okay, time to turn it on, Kansas City. And then and then the Kansas City Chiefs, they win going away. They cover the spread on top of that.
Well, I think it's like playing against the Golden State Warriors a few years back, right? Like the best way to beat them is to keep the ball. Just keep it. Like, it doesn't matter if you're scoring, but just make sure you have the ball most of the time.
Yeah.
Right? So if Baltimore, if they're going to compete, maybe you institute a lot of the run game with Lamar, right? And you chunk it and you chunk it and you chunk it and you take your shot. Because this is going to sound ludicrous, but it's like sometimes scoring too quick against those teams just gives them the rock, and here they go.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Defense is your best offense. I think maybe that's how they play it moving forward.
I think last year, to me, by the end of the season, the Ravens were number 3 in my power rankings. I'm not sure. I mean, I do power rankings. I can't remember where they were, but I remember going into the playoffs thinking Kansas City and San Francisco were, to me, a cut above everybody else in their conference. And I can't remember if you got it right, but I know I did. I picked the Titans to cover. I think cover and lose. I thought the Ravens would win by like 3 or something, and they were significantly favored in that game because I knew that the Tennessee Titans play kind of a good, solid ball control offense, and Tannehill was just going crazy at the end of the year, and so was Derrick Henry. So I was like, if the Titans get a lead, this is going to be a problem for the Ravens. And I think what ended up happening last year is you just saw a team that was a Super Bowl caliber team and a quarterback that, with all respect, I mean, he was so good last year. He wasn't battle-tested in the playoffs. He hasn't gone through the tough losses like Patrick Mahomes has, against the Patriots, where you're kind of going toe-to-toe. And we haven't even seen, because now the Lamar Jackson kind of laid an egg against the Chargers 2 years ago and lost against the Titans. He just hasn't shown the ability when the pressure is on in the NFL to really excel. But I'm not freaking out like everybody else is. I don't think that's I think it's a growth thing. And dude, the special teams are really good here. The defense, which we haven't even talked about, is really good. They added JK Dobbins, who I think is the best running back coming out of the NFL draft, to a team that can already run the ball. Marquise Brown, a very underplayed storyline is Marquise Brown was their over-the-top threat. The first couple weeks of the year, he was super dynamic. Comes in, I think he had like a quad injury. He had some kind of leg injury, was slower, quote-unquote. He wasn't slow. But that kind of took that over-the-top layer out of the offense, and that hurt them down the stretch. But this is a team that can beat everybody, and let me say this. Let me just go right into the over-under total, Brad. 11.5 wins for the Baltimore Ravens in 2020. What do you think, over or under?
I'm going to go over, man. I will. I'll go over. You know what? You said 11.5. No, I'm going to go under. I'm going to put them at 11. Sorry. I'm going to go under. Put them at 11.
I agree.
No, wait.
I agreed. Look, they were 14-2 last year. It's hard to go 14-2 multiple years in a row. You don't see it.
It's one of those deals, Sean, where even if they win 11 games as opposed to 14, they can almost be just as good. There's one thing I've learned is like the Packers last year. What did they win? 13 games,
yeah,
but I don't think they were any better than a team that won 9 or 10.
You're right.
I think we're seeing this more and more often. I think they can win 11 games and be a stronger team, if that makes sense.
I completely agree. I think they're going to be a better team in 2020. I think Lamar Jackson, what I've always liked about him is he looks like he's a hard worker. And I went through the whole RG3 experience in Washington. RG3 now the backup for Baltimore, which, by the way, you're talking about like quarterback depth and all that stuff. If Lamar Jackson, God forbid, goes down with injury, RG3 can execute this offense, as we saw in like week 17 last year against Pittsburgh, who had to win to get in the playoffs. Like, he ended their season. So, I mean, there's good depth there at quarterback. So even if you get into an injury situation at quarterback, you're kind of like last year with New Orleans, where RG3 can come in there and win 4 or 5 games for you, and then Lamar Jackson comes back. But like I said, I do think they're going to be better. I think Lamar Jackson will be a better passer, will be a better down the field passer. Will he replicate last year's stats? That's going to be so hard to do. It's going to be so hard to do because those are just crazy stats. I think the Ravens will be a better team. I think they'll be a better playoff team, which is the goal. And similar to like what we saw last year with Kansas City Chiefs, they didn't win the game volume, but they were probably my favorite team. They were my favorite team going into the playoffs last year, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. So I think Baltimore is better. I think they finish 11-5. this year. I think that the rest of the division's harder.
Me too.
Tougher, top to bottom. Roethlisberger coming back is an underplayed storyline this offseason. That's going to, they could split with the Steelers.
And it's just so tough to have a season like 14-2, twice in a row. It's almost like human nature doesn't even allow for it. It takes
so many things
much.
Have to fall right.
Yeah, it takes so much. And I mean, unless you're like just so damn elite and dialed in and you've been playing with the same guys for 3 years, you're the 96 Bulls. Like it's just, you're going to win 65 games because that's what you do.
Yep.
And that's a rarity in football.
Yep, it is. It's hard, man. Football's hard, and this year we don't even know what's going to happen with the COVID policy yet and all that stuff. It's just a weird year, but dude, like Ravens, one of my Super Bowl teams. I mean, certainly. So we're splitting hairs here. I just think regular season, their focus is going to be championship. They're not worried about going 14-2 this year. They got a year of growth. They have that bad taste in their mouth in the playoffs. I think they're going to load up. Play a little bit closer to the vest, maybe protect Lamar Jackson, their key asset, a little bit more, maybe not have him run as much, maybe throw the ball downfield, work on Lamar Jackson throwing the ball downfield a little bit more during the season. I mean, it's like the Patriots. The Patriots use the first 4 weeks just to kind of figure stuff out. The Ravens are at that point that they're good enough that they can just kind of figure stuff out and almost practice in games. So, yeah, I'm going to be on the under, but they're certainly one of my Super Bowl favorites at this point. They have to be because they're so deep.
Yeah, have to be.
They
right.
have to be.
And I don't know what it is, but for some reason I would want them in the Super Bowl. I like them, and I can't explain why, and I don't have any reason to like them. I think it's maybe like is the wrong word. I think respect is a better word.
Yeah.
Just as a franchise, what they're able to do. They're like the antithesis of the Lions and that, those type of franchises. Yep. And I think it's awesome.
I agree, man. I look forward to, Ravens versus Chiefs, these playoff bouts that we're going to get. Almost like when we were getting Patriots, Colts all those years in the 2000s and early 2010s and stuff. I'm looking forward to these Ravens versus Chiefs battles. I mean, last year, that might have been the best regular season game last year is the Ravens versus the Chiefs. It was like week 2 or something like that. I mean, just fantastic. But